What the fuck is up, internet?
This is a brand new segment, the very first prototype for our friends' favorite films. With us today is
one none other than Ken Sledge, trying to drop the hammer, Sledgehammer podcast.
Ken, thank you very much for indulging us while we figure this out today.
This is how every episode goes.
I'm super stoked. Like, this is, I've been hanging out with you guys for a little bit now, and I'm having the time of my life, man. This is great.
Tell us about Sledgehammer Horror and what made you want to start the podcast that you're doing.
Sledgehammer Horror has been going on for about 2 years now. My wife and I, we do it together. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here tonight. She does work at the hospital, so she couldn't make it here tonight. We have a couple different segments we do. One called My First Horror Movie, where I bring guests on and talk to them about the first horror movie they watched, how it affected them. I was lucky to have you gentlemen as a part of that. We also do a segment called Didn't See That Coming, where we talk about horror movies that have twist endings that we didn't see coming and how they affected us. We have a segment called Versus, where we take a remake versus original, what we liked about one, what we liked about the other, which one we liked more of the bunch. And then we do top 10 rankings, franchise rankings, movie reviews, things like that as well.
I just saw on your Instagram recently, is Cody Leach coming up on a segment that I saw?
Yep. We actually just did one a couple of nights ago. Cody Leach is a really good friend of the channel. Actually, when we started, he was one of the first people that reached out and was like, hey, man, if you ever need any pointers, let me know. He's one of the nicest dudes in the horror community. And he came on a live episode with us and we did Stranger Things review and predictions for season 5. We reviewed season 4 and any predictions we had for the upcoming season 5.
All right. So do you have anything coming up that you'd like to let the audience know to check out?
Yeah, August 8th, actually, Michael Smallwood, you may know him from Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills as the doctor in the bar. He'll be a guest on My First Horror Movie. Kim Douthit will also be a guest. And we have our verses coming up on Fright Night and our Didn't See That Coming on one of my favorite movies of the last 20 years, The Cabin in the Woods. So nice. You can check those out at the channel. Those will be coming out here in the next couple of weeks.
That's awesome. And one last question before we move on to your movie about your channel. What's what's your format like as far as can somebody just jump into a segment? Are they like 15, 20 minutes? Or are they more long form?
I just try to keep it more free flowing. I really hate to put a number on it. The only thing I like to keep it between 23 and 33 minutes. With the YouTube algorithm, those are the episodes that have been treated me the kindest, the ones that have been pushed out into the algorithm a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But I just don't want to censor anybody. I don't want to stop anybody. Like, if I'm able to talk about a horror movie with somebody, I'm feeling lucky. Like, I never know when this could end, and I could die tomorrow. So all I want to do is have as much fun as I possibly can and talk to as many people. And I've made so many great friends along the way. Like Lady Shasha, I want to shout her out real quick. If it wasn't for her, this would have never happened. And I've met and became great friends with some people that I've looked up to my whole life, whether it be Lisa Wilcox from Nightmare on Elm Street 4. She's, we're friends now. And I'm not trying to like drop names, but like, these are people that I've actually gotten to know and become friends with. And like you guys, like people that create content to me are the most underrated people in the world. I mean, how many times have you heard, oh, you do a podcast, or, oh, you do a YouTube channel?
From our own friends and family.
And that's the thing. If you knew half of the work that goes into doing this with the editing, the recruiting, everything, like I'm never not working. Even when I'm doing my 9 to 5, I'm still working on this podcast, whether I'm editing, writing scripts. It's a never ending job. And you guys have my utmost respect because I know how hard you truly work, whether it's doing your film, being filmmakers, or doing the podcast. I know the hard work you guys do. So you have nothing but love and respect from this side.
Same to you. Same to you. Man, I feel so heard right now, don't you?
What did our last guest say? It's those little moments. Yeah, you get those things, those little blessings. It's not success.
It may feel like success,
but it's not. It's just what you're doing. It's just what comes with what you're doing.
Thanks, man. The real rewards in this channel is just like yours has been the relationships that you make and just get in. It's a great excuse to talk to and associate with people who are like-minded or at least have similar interests.
My best line is, hey, when we're gone, we won't be.
Yeah, that's
because we're out there in so many megabytes of the internet. Like people, I went viral. That's great.
Yeah, if I get
like fuck, that's one video that people, somebody will be viral tomorrow. Longevity is what cannot be duplicated. You know what I'm saying? So yeah,
right.
We get in a car accident tomorrow. We still have content scheduled.
Fuck you, Fight Club. Kill yourself.
No, and it's amazing, like you just said. Like I've never once, and we talked about this before. I've never once looked at somebody and said, "I don't want you as a guest on my channel. I don't think you'll bring me views or bring me subscribers." Like I just think that that's a real shitty way to live your life. You know, if I get to, like I said, I grew up in a video store. I was so blessed. I was so lucky. I had horror movies at my disposal every which way. And now I get to talk about how horror started for other people. Like that's so dope, man. Like it's the coolest shit in the world.
Can I ask a question? Did you ever steal from a video store or that video store?
No, my mom and dad owned it. They would have fucking killed me.
This guy did. He's
a
thief.
Hey, you know what?
I'm gonna start calling you. I'm gonna start calling you Netflix because you probably helped put my parents out of business.
Tell them your fucking store, you thief.
Well,
you
one of the films that I stole happens to be right here, which is your favorite film. Spoiler alert. By the way, that's what we do on this segment. We talk to other people, friends of the show, about their favorite film. Today, we're going to be talking about Ken of Sledgehammer Horror's favorite film, House. Dude, this is before we get into it, how did and by the way, Hollywood Video fucked me over. I worked for them. I gave them my energy, my body, my time of the best years of my life from 16 to 18.
How many DVDs were on the fucking ground?
I worked myself up to shift manager. They demoted me unfairly. I ended up at Old Navy, which was the worst days of my life. So yeah, when I was
cheese with that wine,
I really don't care.
Right.
If you stole from Hollywood Video, because fuck them. Like, listen, my mom and dad had a mom and pop shop. Okay, they weren't a corporate, place that could just get movies. We had to pay for every single thing. So when people rented from us and didn't return it, I wanted to go find them and light their mailbox on fire.
Ken. He didn't steal. How many were there, David?
There's probably like 125. Well, what happened?
That's not stealing. That's a RICO act.
I got away with it. Like I started going like 3 times a week because eventually it kind of became an addiction. It's like, man, I feel like watching a movie. This was before Netflix and everything, So I'd go go pick something out. I got all these badass movies. The movie that I got the tap on the shoulder from the manager about was Rocky Horror Picture Show, which I love that movie and I'm a proud fan of that movie, but it's not the movie that I want to go to jail for and have to. What you in for? That transvestite film? I just didn't think it was going to bode well for me. And the reason why I got caught was because the manager wanted to be a detective, but he was colorblind, so he couldn't. They wouldn't let him. So I got that manager who was a cop in his heart. He's been building a case against me for like 6 months. The cops get there. We go into the back office and he pulls out a box. He's telling the cops, he's like, every time he leaves and he drops the box and I'm looking at all these like empty cases. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that movie. Yeah, that was a good one. Oh dude, that was fun. All of them were mine. I had all the discs at home. It was too easy.
Ken, and I quote, I started doing it like 3 times a week. It was like an addiction.
All right. Look, none of this.
Hold on, real quick. What's worse than that is when people would return, because we had VHS. Like that's how long ago this was. We didn't have DVDs yet. When people would return the VHS, but like assholes, they put tape over the thing and they recorded over the movie with like some fucking news broadcast.
Wow.
Like that was shitty. Like, because now people rent it, they're excited to go home and watch Jim Carrey's The Mask, and yet they come back with fucking
like
Walter
1995 trolling. It's 1995 trolling.
Like that's what it was, man.
Yeah,
because you don't get to
never
say.
Gonna give you.
Hey, bro, I bet they're watching it right now, man.
Yeah, like before people were rickrolled, they were Cronkited. Fuck, I got Cronkited. I'm sitting here trying to watch Hellraiser, and I got.
Is that JFK video? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Back into the left.
All right, let's get back into the house. So before we get into the film itself, how'd you find House, and what was your like initial reaction?
It was the first horror movie I ever watched. My grandmother was tired of watching Thundercats all the time, and my parents were always working at the store, so the deal was we had a VHS rewinder at the store. And if I did my job, which was whenever people were not kind enough to rewind, I would take the VHS, put it in the rewinder, rewind it to the beginning, and then take it out and put it on the shelf. If I did that all week, I got to take home one Nintendo cartridge and one movie a week. And we had a Thundercats cartoon that I would rent every week. And my grandma got tired of it, and she told me to go look in the horror section. Like, I think she was just messing with me. But I seen the cover, the finger, and I was like, oh my gosh, this looks sick. This looks so awesome. I think House was the H's, so it was a little bit lower. So it's probably the first one I just made eye contact with. And took it home and watched it. And I fell in love. And I think it's great because it's a horror comedy. It doesn't really, it's not a super scary movie, but like me and my grandma would literally play house. Like for those of you that haven't seen it, Roger Cobb is looking for his missing son. He moves into the house where his aunt had passed away. It's got a lot of levels to this movie. It's a horror movie. It's a comedy. It's a drama. It's a Vietnam War story. It's got a little bit of everything. Well, me and my grandma literally play house, and I'd put on this little army man hat, and I'd tell her that we were going to open the closet at exactly 12 o'clock. And then at exactly 12 o'clock, we'd open the closet, and she'd act like a monster, and she'd come out at me like, this movie is super, super special to me. And I still to this day think it's my favorite horror movie of all time.
I'm sorry if I missed this part, but how old were you when you saw it?
Ooh, 4 years old.
Wow, that's crazy.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Other than nostalgia, what do you think that film has that most horrors don't have now? And the reason why I asked that question is because, at least for me, I guess the most frightening things for me was just because I was a child, and as I grew up, things stopped being frightening to me. So what elements do you think are different now?
With this movie, there's a couple different things actually I love about this movie. One, like I just said, it's everything. How often can you watch a movie that has scary moments, action with like they're literally at war in Vietnam. It has a great twist to it when you find out what happened to the kid and who took the kid. When you have the next door neighbor, she's super sexy. The score is super great in this movie. The opening cello going over the top of the house. Everything about this movie to me just flows together so well. There's never really any moment where I'm bored, even when I'm watching it now. I'm either laughing or I'm scared or I'm curious. Because they even hide little comedy in it, like little things like his wife, Sandy, is an actress, and she's watching herself in her soap opera on TV. And her character on the soap opera goes, "You broke my sister's heart, and she's an only child."
My sister is an only child, and you abused her. I can never forgive you for that.
And you're like, what the fuck did you just say? And like these little things that they hide even in the background, I think are so just, and it's got a lot of heart to it. And the initial jump scare, the movie starts with one of my favorite jump scares of all time, with the grocery boy coming in the house and Mrs. Hooper. And then you have the loud noise and her in the bedroom, like, oh my gosh, it's perfect. Like, it's such a great movie.
It's funny when you mention the humor in it, because the movie has sat on my shelf for months, and I didn't watch it until you said that we were going to be talking about it. And when I was watching it, my first thought was like, man, this is so much like I'm picking up on like Evil Dead 2 energy here. And then I looked at it, and now I feel like a conspiracy theorist, because the first Evil Dead came out in 1981. House came out in 1985, and then the second Evil Dead, which was essentially the first Evil Dead with the house treatment, came out in 1987. Where, like, I always thought the Evil Dead 2 was kind of like the first genre break-in horror comedy in that, to that degree. But I was really surprised to see that House, like, they even had the dead animal on the wall, that the fish instead of a deer. That's like, there were so many things there. It's like Sam Raimi had to take inspiration from this when he went back into Evil Dead 2, seeing the difference between Evil Dead 1 and Part 2 and House being right there in the middle. So,
I do got to say real quick, because I don't know how this got started. House was released February 28th, 1986. Like, everybody says House 85. I promise you it's House 86. And everybody says it. And I've got the poster in my room.
So you do a movie show. No, please, because it's not, I'm not offended. IMDb should be ashamed of themselves. So you do a lot of research, I'm sure, for your episodes. How much does IMDb let you down on a
dude, so much.
I call it IMDUMB.
Yeah.
No, what really
please hire us.
One time I was interviewing somebody. Her name was Lindsay Syme. I don't know. Have you guys seen Insidious Chapter 2?
Yeah.
she plays young Elise at the beginning of the movie, and she was credited for something on IMDb that she wasn't even a part of. And like I was interviewing her, I was like, "You may know her from this and this and this," and she's like, "I was never a part of that." And I was like, "Oh, I look like a fucking idiot right now, and I'm so sorry."
That happens to us on at least 2 out of every 10 guests. And the funniest one was Barry Corbin. He was like, he's like, "I was never in that, but I mean, it makes my resume look good, so I leave it on there."
Let them keep it. Let me ask you this. If you could change one thing about the movie House, what would it be?
You know what? If I could change one thing about it, going back and looking at it now, it's hard because I look at it with, like you said, with nostalgia. I probably would have gone into as much as this might piss some people off that love the movie, I might have gone a little bit more into the backstory of Roger and Big Ben. That way, that moment at the end might have hit a little more. And what a lot of people don't realize is Big Ben is played when he's in his monster form by Kane Hodder. And I think that's another thing that's really cool. You know, you go back and, you know, Kane Hodder obviously was such a huge impact on us with with Friday the 13th. And that's another thing to me that's like, this is truly amazing. And I'm from Michigan. My family and I, we went to California last year on our family vacation. And the first place we went to was the House. You know, I got a bunch of pictures of us standing outside of it. And it's just this movie. It's so special to me because, I mean, even if you go and you look at the channel and you look at Sledgehammer Reviews, our playlist, and we have a Sledgehammer Reviews house. And the thumbnail is a bunch of pictures of my grandma and I when I was a little boy. Like, that's how much, like, watching the movie. Like, there's literally a picture in the thumbnail of us watching the movie. Like, that's how much this movie meant to my grandmother and I. Nice. And it's like I got the poster in my room. I just think that I've always been an advocate of remaking movies. I think that if you remake a movie, not only can you potentially make a great movie, but you can also turn people on to the original that have never seen it. Look at Halloween. When 2018 came out, the sales on Halloween 1978 jumped like 38%. And these are people that had never seen it that were going back to watch it. And, you know, maybe that could happen with something like House. But I think this is the one movie, maybe this and Jaws are the ones that I'm like, we don't need new people watching it. Leave it alone. I don't even want you to remake it because it's just so perfect the way it is.
I liked I wanted to ask a question about the director, Steve Miner, because, you know, he's all over the place as far as like what his career did. And I saw that House was kind of like the transitional film for him to kind of show studios that he could do stuff other than horror. He did the year after House, he did Soul Man. And then I love Big Bully, which he did. He also did Forever Young. So when I watch a movie, and it really like resonates with me, I'll, you know, pay attention to the credits, and I'll usually just kind of fan out on whatever the director, the lead, or pretty much anybody is doing in that movie from that point out. Was that the case for you with Steve Miner? Are you like a Steve Miner fan or just a House fan?
I mean, I am a Steve Miner fan. And obviously Sean Cunningham, you know, he had a lot to do with this. I think that's a big part of, you know, having Kane Hodder in this, you know, I think that's a big part of it. But what I think I love the most about House is House spawned 3 sequels, you know, House 2, House 3, House 4. House 2 and 3 have nothing to do with the first House. And then House 4 brings back Roger Cobb just to kill him, you know, and they totally go, like, they ignore the first one even happened. Like, he has a whole new family and everything. But this is a movie that it stands on its own. And I think even when they were making the sequels, they knew we wrapped that story up in a perfect package. We caught lightning in a bottle. Let's build sequels on them, and let's go more of a comedic route rather than a horror comedy with the sequels. But that's how important that first one was. And you talk about, you know, the influence. I can't watch Carrie without thinking of House. You know, having Roger Cobb I'm like, listen, this guy survived Vietnam, Big Ben, monsters in his house, and a fucking bucket to the head got him. Like, is that really what we're talking about right now? So, I mean, and then obviously, you know, like George Wendt, Richard Mole, like all these people, when I watch them, I can only see them as their House characters. I know when people think of George Wendt, it's Cheers, you know, but for me, it's House. And you talk about the comedic breaks in the movie, like when he walks in and he's talking to Roger when they're doing the trash, and he's like, good to see we got a new neighbor here. The last lady here is a total bitch. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if someone offed her. And then Roger's like, oh, she was my aunt. And he's like, but she had a heart of gold, real sweet. You know, like, and I feel like those comedic moments like that, the comedic timing that these two had with each other completely landed. You know, because horror and comedy are so closely knit, I think, because it's all about timing. You know, if you have bad timing in a comedy movie, you're not going to laugh. If you have bad timing in a horror movie, you're not going to be scared. When you have the perfect timing of both, it just wraps itself up in a beautiful little package.
I feel like those are the two genres that you have to be the bravest of a filmmaker to go after, because a drama, there's no evidence of whether it's landing or not in the audience. But if you're not getting gasps or like people squirming in a horror, or if you're not getting laughs in a comedy, it's like audibly or physically apparent that you failed at what you've attempted to do.
I think that's where the word suspense came from when horror's in here, right? We know it's a suspense. It's a slow burn.
Yeah, when the only person
we're in reshoots. What was I watching when you came in?
So I come in, he's watching the new Predators, or
it's not the new, it's Predator movie, Predators. No, it was 2000. I think it was 2000. Yeah, it was Adrian Brody. Maybe 13.
Was that the one with Eric Foreman?
Yes. But the connection is, of course, Fred Decker, who co-wrote House, but he also did one of my favorite movies growing up, Monster Squad.
Oh yeah.
That's all besides the point.
What was a connection?
Before we get, I did have a funny note about William Catt, the greatest American hero. I was looking at his IMDb, and it's like he was unable to escape House after it. He did, of course, you say he did House 4 and House, but then he was also in Our House, in our house. He was in House MD, House of Pain. That was the most recent one. But yeah, I thought
he missed everything except a Full House.
I thought that was I want to ask you what I don't want to ask you what your favorite scene is. I do want to know that, but I'll tell you what my favorite scene was. When he goes back to Vietnam, and he's pretty much watching Big Ben. Big Ben's begging. It was Dead Presidents. It was like,
really,
Dead Presidents had to have been inspired by this, because it was like, kill me, please kill me. He wouldn't. He wouldn't.
It's like Sopranos,
but he didn't. He's like, I can't. He walks away, and then here comes the Vietnamese soldiers to just pull him out. It's like, I'll fucking get you. I'll get you. But what made that scene so great to me was so emotionally grounded and perfect. And then he jumps out the door, and what's his name? George Wendt is sitting there.
Harold.
After everything that Roger went through, Harold is the one that has to be helped to bed, too drunk to.
Because he's so drunk.
Roger, it's you. Like, do you realize I just went to Vietnam and back? How are you the one that has to be carried to bed? So that was the scene that really got me. But if you could use one scene, like if you got a friend and they're like, you really want them to see it, they're like, all right, I'll watch one scene and I'll decide on that one scene if I'm going to watch this movie. What scene would it be that you show them?
I would have to put two together because my favorite scene won't make sense if you don't see the first scene. When Roger first goes to the house, he's there with the realtor, and they're walking around outside in the pool house, and there's this painting there, and it's the weirdest painting. It's Aunt May. I'm sorry, Aunt May. I'm in the Spider-Man world right now.
Oh shit! All right, Peter.
Right. It's Mrs. Hooper, and she's standing there, and she's walking into the bathroom in the little bedroom. And there's a cloth hanging on the painting, and there's clocks all over. And it's like a weird painting. And Roger is in that bathroom, and is later on in the movie. You have to watch that first scene to understand this scene, though. He's washing his face, and he looks up at the mirror, and he kind of has this epiphany, and he goes back to that painting, and where the cloth is hanging, he pulls the cloth off, and you see his son is trapped in the mirror screaming. Like Aunt May seeing him screaming, or God, Aunt Elizabeth. Son of a bitch. Aunt Elizabeth seen him screaming in the mirror. So then Roger goes back upstairs, and, I'm not going to say anything else after that, but just that, the score, the build up, everything to when he walks up, and then he pulls that rag off, and you see the little boy stuck in the mirror, and then everything starts to make sense. Because the boy went missing at the house. We know that, but where did he go? Who took him? What happened to him? And then, just to see him in that reflection, and Aunt May's face on the paint. Son of a bitch, I'm going to keep doing it. Aunt Elizabeth's face in that painting and everything she did in there, it all makes sense now, because everything that she's painted has come to life to Roger at some point while he's been in the house. Yeah. And so for him to come to that epiphany and go, oh, I need to go pull that off. And then that's when the ball really, shit is about to go down at this point. And and then another scene is when he sees the apparition of Aunt Elizabeth. And he's
Aunt May?
Aunt Elizabeth.
Yeah, you got okay. He slowed it all the way down. Aunt Elizabeth.
Yes, I did. I wrote it on my hand. So, when he walks in, he sees her apparition and she's like, it got me, Roger. It finally did it. The house got to me and it's going to get to you too. Leave while you can. And then she puts the noose on her neck and jumps off. I'm going to tell you guys this because by the time this is released, our short film, Home is Where the Haunt Is, has been released. There's
I'll put a link to that in the description.
Thank you. There's a scene in our short film that is directly inspired by House. When the protagonist hears a noise and he walks in the other room and there's a noose hanging and it says leave or stay forever. In Aunt May's, it's leave while you can. God damn it. I said Aunt May.
He did. I knew it. I knew he was going to do it. Aunt Elizabeth says, leave while you can. In our short film, we say leave or stay forever. But that's a total homage to House and how much that movie. There's a couple different homages we did that are very obvious. There's a definite Texas Chainsaw homage you'll see. There's Sledgehammer Easter eggs. There's a Saw homage, but you'll definitely catch a lot of these, especially you guys. The House one, I don't think is much well known.
Yes, I know.
Tell him why I'm laughing. Tell me that I'm laughing.
He can't hold it together right now because he said homage like 10 times during an episode and I called him out on him like it's homage. But then when I was in post-production, I Googled it and found out that they were both correct. So I had to eat crow.
A lot of it. He was like, man, I'm the one that's going to have to fix this. I'm like, yeah, I guess. Like,
okay, I'm sorry for the
I'm sorry, but you kept saying it the right way.
So this is good though. So people that found this and watch this because it says House in the title, they'll be glad to know that your short film, it's Home is Where the Haunt Is, right?
Yes, Home is Where the Haunt Is.
So if you're a fan of House, you'll definitely want to click the link in the description to watch that because it's made by the dude that made it is literally House is his favorite movie, and you heard it right here that there's going to be throwbacks.
I love that you did that, by the way, because I think that's one of the beautiful parts of filmmaking is that once you've done everything as an independent filmmaker, it's like I'm damn sure going to put something that influenced me into this.
I have two more questions. One of them is related to House, and one of them is just like a final question.
Go for it.
The House question is for people out there that haven't seen it, that are kind of on the fence. If you could compare it to another movie, like if you could tell them, if you like this, then you'll like House.
That's a really hard one. If I'm comparing it to another 80s movie, I just tell them what's your favorite horror comedy, because House, and I hate to say it because it sounds so like condescending, but because it's my favorite movie, but I really don't think there's another movie out there like House. It's just got everything. If you want comedy, it's there. If you want horror, it's there. If you want suspense, it's there. If you want, action war movie, it's there. Man, I don't know. Maybe 80s movies like The Gate, maybe.
Yeah.
If you were into The Gate, that might be one, except for told from the adults' perspective rather than the kids.
That's a good.
That might be one.
Yeah.
Because you think this, what I love about it is there's so much more of a twist than just what happened to the kid. Like the whole time you think the house is haunted, it's the house, and it's not. It's just a house. But there's all these other underlying things that are haunting the house.
What's funny is that I thought about this while I was watching House. There's never been it's always like a family moving into this real big, prestigious looking, or at least a fancy suburban home. A haunted house film has never ever started with some lower middle class hard off family moving into a single wide, and the single wide ends up being haunted. I've never once seen
you never saw Roseanne?
No. You talking about
the reason why is because these ghosts are bougie. They're not living in a single wide. We did that shit in life. We're dead now. We're gonna get the biggest shit we can get because they can't tell us no.
That's a solid fucking point. Yeah, because if you can go anywhere, why are you going to stay in a trailer?
Yeah, I'm not going to a fucking trailer. I did that shit in life. That's why I'm dead.
That's the fucking trailer.
Yeah. Hey-o. Do you have a final question about
I know. I was just going to ask you, Mr. Sledge, Mr. Ken Sledge, if you can give any advice to anyone out there who's thinking about doing a podcast, anyone who is thinking about starting something, any words you would like to give to our audience, your audience, any words of advice, sir?
Wait. Hold that. That's a good final question.
Did I have a final fucking question?
And
now you've ruined it.
No, that's a good last.
Because now he gets to cheat. Now he knows what I'm going to ask.
Well, yeah, you're welcome. The question I'd like to preface that with before we say the goodbye question is we know your favorite movie of all time and the first horror film that you saw is House, but what's the most recent horror film that like got you?
I really enjoyed The Black Phone.
Really?
I think The Black Phone was really, really good. I really enjoyed X. I thought X was super great. But if we're talking about the latest horror movie that genuinely scared me and rocked me to my core, it's a Shudder original called The Dark and the Wicked. That movie scared the shit out of me. I watched that movie at like 3:30 in the afternoon. I was telling my wife, like, hey, can you open those blinds a little bit more? Like, I want to make sure everything's kosher on the inside. Like, I thought that I was desensitized to horror movies. Like, I was like, oh, shit can't scare me anymore. I'm 36. I've been watching this shit my whole life. It's just fun now. And I genuinely was having bad anxiety watching this movie. I watched it a couple months after the passing of my own mother. And that's what a lot of this movie has to deal with. So I think a lot of it was hitting closer to home with me.
Yeah.
And it got me, man. If you guys haven't seen The Dark and the Wicked, I cannot recommend it enough. The performances are great. The writing is on point. It's got a couple big name actors that are playing lower roles in it. It's so solid. Such a solid movie. I every time anybody asks me that, it's always The Dark and the Wicked. I'll start throwing The Black Phone in there though too. The Black Phone was very impressive. Blumhouse is usually really hit or miss for me. I think that's my movie of the year so far.
Okay. Sweet. Before you answer his question and with the final words, want to let the audience know in the description, you will find the link to Sledgehammer Horror if you want to check out Ken's channel, and you should check out Ken's channel, especially if you're a fan of horror. You could see him talk about all things horror with other people that enjoy horror. And he also made a film that will be in the description as well. Home is where the haunt is. With that said, Ken, what would you like to leave the audience with?
Oh, well, you were asking about any advice that I would give. This shit's hard. Like, if this is something you're thinking about doing because you're watching other people or you're listening to other people, really go into it knowing what you want to do. Have your craft ready. Have it, do a couple practice episodes that you don't release to anybody. Show it to people that are closest to you that will be honest with you about their critiques. And don't give up. Like I said, it's very, very hard. And the longer you do it, the longer you're going to learn about the editing processes and especially if you're doing a YouTube one where you're putting video clips on over top, what you worried about with copyright and stuff like that. And another big thing I would say is reach out to other content creators, not only for, to come on your podcast and, have discussions, but advice. If you were going through something, I've reached out like with these guys, Lady Shasha connected us. I reach out to her, James and Chelsea from Dead Meat are big ones that I get in contact with, like, hey, I'm going through this. When you hit when you're running and you hit that brick wall, what do you do to get through it? You're going to get discouraged doing this. You're going to put out what you think is just the most perfect episode, and you've done the most perfect editing, and you've lined everything up perfectly, and you don't get the feedback on it that you were hoping for. And it's so easy to just be like, you know what, these are a dime a dozen. I'm done doing this. But find your niche, do something that's special to you. And if you're genuine and you're authentic, people are going to listen because they're going to know that it's coming from the heart and that it's special to you, and that it's going to mean a lot to them too, because they connect with that, with honesty and integrity. That's something that people connect with. So find your niche, create your craft, be honest, and don't be afraid to reach out to other content creators for advice or help whenever you're feeling down or you're feeling like you want to give up. They'll have some words of inspiration to help you keep going.
Did you write that?
I was going to say, man, we're just going to run that as a segment on our show. Hey guys, it's Ken Sledge here. If you want
we have talked to seasoned thespians who have been in the industry for 40, 50 years, and that is the best piece of sign off that we've ever received. That's incredible.
Like I said, man, honesty. Like that's all the shit that I do. You know, I feel like whenever I hit those walls, and I'm lucky, like for the people that are listening that don't know Sledgehammer Horror, I have my wife does this with me, Ashley. Me and Ashley have been together since high school. We've been married 17 years. And you know, she writes all the versus episodes. She writes all the didn't see that coming episodes. She's extremely intelligent and she's really easy to look at, which I'm sure helps, you know, some of our views, but she's not just that, man. Like she's super smart and super funny. And like, as somebody that writes this stuff like you guys do, as guys, we don't get a lot of the gatekeeping shit that women do. And I go through it like, oh, your wife's on your podcast with you. Like, no, my wife writes a lot of this shit. I'm just lucky enough to found someone that's good looking, smart, funny, articulate, and can put that to paper where I can't. I'm the ad lib guy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to throw shit together and I'm going to come off the top of my head. My wife is very scheduled, very written. And, you know, everything I do, I come up with shit. She prints it off for me. You can't really see it here because it's so bad it's censored on the screen. But, you know, she writes everything for me, you know, my intros, my everything. She puts it together so it looks well written, well articulated, and I can read off it. Having a partner, like, you know, that's another thing I would recommend.
You are going to get so laid. This has been too much fun.
Got to do it again. We will.
And yeah,
that sounds so fucking weird. Ken, thanks, man, for everything, brother. It was a pleasure. Hey, listen, we'll catch you right after Nope that night. And hey, everybody, for our audience, check out Ken's channel. Trust me, it's a sledge with a hammer. Podcast. Hey guys, hey gals, did you like that? I know I did. And here's something YouTube thinks you'll like. They've actually recommended. What do you recommend?
I recommend that if you have not subscribed to our channel, that you please click right down there and make sure you correct that wrong this very instant.
Let me ask a question. Where can they find us?
All those places over there, we're everywhere. Everywhere.
We thought we could do a cooler outro. We're just going to walk away now.